Today is Monday, April 6th, 2026. In 36 hours, either a diplomatic miracle happens or the most consequential military escalation since World War II begins. Iran just made an announcement that sent shockwaves through every foreign ministry on the planet. They have formulated their response to ceasefire proposals. They are ready to talk. But not directly. Not with the United States. Not while bombs are still falling on Iranian soil. That single condition just turned a tense countdown into a near impossible race against the clock. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Trump's deadline expires. And right now, as of this moment, there is no deal. There is no ceasefire. There is no open strait. There is only a world holding its breath and watching two nuclear-armed alliances inch toward a line that once crossed cannot be uncrossed. If you want to understand what is actually at stake in the next 36 hours, not the headlines, not the spin, but the real sequence of events and what each one means, stay with this video. And if this kind of analysis is what you come here for, subscribing takes 2 seconds and it means we can keep doing this. Now, here is what is happening right now. Iran's foreign ministry confirmed it this morning. Tehran has reviewed the ceasefire proposals delivered through mediators. They have crafted a response. They are prepared to engage. But they drew a hard line. No direct talks with the United States while American and Israeli jets are still conducting strikes on Iranian territory. This is not a bluff. This is a calculated diplomatic position. And it creates a structural problem that 36 hours may not be enough time to solve. Here is why it matters. Trump's team, led by Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, submitted its terms directly to Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. The Iranians received the message. They read it. They responded through back channels. But Tehran is refusing to sit across a table from Washington while the bombs fall. They want the guns quiet before the conversation starts. Washington wants the strait open before the guns go quiet. These two positions are not just different, they are structurally opposite. One side must blink first, and neither side is blinking. The mediators in the room right now are an extraordinary coalition of urgency. Egypt, Pakistan, and Turkey jointly submitted a proposal to both sides on Sunday. A 45-day ceasefire, reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, a framework for structured negotiations, a pause button on the apocalypse. That proposal landed on the desks of both Abbas Araghchi and Steve Witkoff simultaneously. Qatar's prime minister was on the phone Monday morning, calling for an immediate return to the negotiating table. Oman's foreign ministry held emergency meetings with Iranian diplomats over the weekend, discussing specific options for how the strait passage could be guaranteed during a ceasefire period. Pakistan's military chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, is the thread connecting both sides. He is carrying messages that neither government will officially acknowledge sending. This is what modern great power diplomacy looks like when it is desperate. No press conferences, no handshakes, just back-channel messages moving through Islamabad and Muscat and Doha while missiles fly overhead. The 45-day ceasefire proposal is the best idea on the table. Everyone in the room knows it. The question is whether the room has 36 hours left. While the diplomats scramble, the battlefield is not pausing to wait for them. Monday, U.S. and Israeli jets struck Iran's petrochemical industry, steel plants, infrastructure tied to missile production, multiple sites disabled. Defense Minister Israel Katz confirmed the strikes, stating the targeted facilities were directly supporting Iran's capacity to manufacture and launch ballistic missiles. Iran's response was not delayed. Iranian drones crossed the Gulf and struck the oil sector complex in Shuaik, Kuwait. The Kuwait Petroleum Corporation headquarters took direct hits. The country's Ministry of Oil Building was targeted. Fires erupted across multiple operational facilities. Kuwait's national petroleum infrastructure and the petrochemical industry's compound both sustained damage. Kuwait, a country not at war with anyone, a Gulf neighbor trying to stay neutral, hit anyway. That is what escalation looks like when both sides stop caring about collateral optics. On Sunday, the day before, Iran struck Haifa, a 6-story residential apartment building, engulfed in flames, 4 civilians killed, Israeli emergency crews searching the rubble for survivors. 1 week ago, that same city was watching interceptor trails light up the sky. Now it is watching rescue teams carry stretchers through burned hallways. The civilian death toll on the Israeli side has now climbed past 32 people. More than 3,200 have been hospitalized since February 28th. These are not statistics. These are residents of cities who went to sleep believing their shelters would hold. There is a story inside Monday's news that almost every headline buried. Israel confirmed the killing of Majid Kadami. Kadami was the intelligence chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, Iran's elite paramilitary force. The organization responsible for coordinating drone and missile attacks, managing proxy forces across the region, and running the intelligence operations that track U.S. and Israeli military movements. Killing the intelligence chief of the IRGC is not a tactical strike. It is a decapitation of Iran's operational brain trust. This is the same campaign that already killed Supreme Leader Khamenei on February 28th. The same campaign that has systematically eliminated IRGC commanders, military scientists, radar operators, and now the man who ran intelligence collection for all of it. Israel's defense minister did not hide the strategy. He said Israel will continue to hunt down Iran's leaders one by one, and he added a warning that Israel would destroy Iran's national infrastructure if Iranian missiles keep hitting Israeli civilians. This is not a war with defined front lines anymore. This is a systematic elimination of Iran's military and intelligence leadership, combined with strikes on its industrial capacity. And Iran is watching its command structure get dismantled in real time while it is trying to negotiate. That context explains everything about why Iran will not sit down directly with Washington while the bombs fall. Every time they send a diplomat to a table, another general dies. Now understand what is actually sitting over the global economy like a loaded gun. The Strait of Hormuz has been at 95% shutdown for more than 5 weeks. Brent crude oil is trading above $109 per barrel as of today. West Texas Intermediate above $112. Before this war, both were in the $60 to $70 range. That is a 60 to 80% price increase in 5 weeks. American drivers are paying close to $4 a gallon for gasoline, up 80 cents from a month ago. Diesel approaching $5. Everything that moves by truck costs more. Everything that moves by ship costs more. Everything in every store costs more. But here is the number that should genuinely alarm you. Analysts are now warning that mid-April is the breaking point, not a vague future risk, a specific window. If the strait does not reopen within the next 2 to 3 weeks, the supply disruption doubles. The world has already lost between 4.5 and 5 million barrels of oil per day. By mid-April, that number could hit 10 million. 10 million barrels per day gone from global supply. At that level, oil does not go to $130. It goes to $170. And economists who model $170 oil describe what happens next as a stagflationary shock with no modern historical precedent. Not 2008, not 1979. Something new. Something worse. Goldman Sachs has already raised U.S. recession odds by 5 percentage points in a single month. Oxford Economics modeled $140 oil for 2 months. Their conclusion? Eurozone in contraction. United Kingdom in contraction. Japan in contraction. United States in economic standstill. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas put a number on a 90-day closure. A 2.9% quarterly GDP decline. That is not a slowdown. That is a hard recession. And the clock on that window is ticking alongside the clock on Trump's Tuesday deadline. There is one more piece of this puzzle that Washington is not talking about publicly. The missing American pilot. An F-15 fighter jet went down over Iranian territory. The pilot ejected. Iran claims it shot the aircraft down. A separate incident saw Iran claim it destroyed an A-10 Warthog near the strait. 2 American aircraft. 2 claims of Iranian air defense success. Trump told reporters the downed jet would not affect negotiations. His exact words: "No, not at all. No, it's war." But researchers at King's College London have a different read. A captured American pilot is leverage of a kind that changes every calculation. It gives Tehran a human bargaining chip. It undermines every claim that the United States has established complete air superiority over Iranian territory. It creates a domestic political crisis in Washington that no president can ignore. If that pilot is in Iranian custody right now, the 36 hours before Tuesday's deadline becomes even more explosive. Because Trump cannot bomb Iran's power plants while an American serviceman is sitting somewhere inside the country. The pilot situation may be the invisible hand holding the trigger. Monday morning, markets exhaled briefly when Trump suggested peace talks were productive. S&P 500 futures pointed upward. Brent crude dipped more than 10% on the hope of a deal. Bond yields pulled back slightly from their highest levels since mid-2025. Investors bought the rumor of de-escalation. Then Iran said no direct talks. The exhale stopped. Markets froze. The 10-year Treasury yield climbed back toward 4.36%, a level not seen since before this war began. Volatility indices spiked. This is what trading in a war looks like. Every Trump social media post moves markets. Every Iranian statement moves them back. Billions of dollars shifting in seconds based on whether a deadline gets extended or a ceasefire proposal gets accepted. Wall Street strategist Ed Yardeni said it plainly. The bond market is now pricing in a rapidly deteriorating inflation outlook. He said a bear market and a recession cannot be ruled out. His exact framing: it all depends on how long the strait stays closed. One narrow waterway, 21 miles wide. The entire global economy hanging on what happens there in the next 36 hours. In Tehran right now, there are volunteers stitching Iranian flags by hand. Up to 5,000 flags per day, distributed free across the city. Streets lined with banners that read, "The Strait of Hormuz remains closed." This is not a government that is about to capitulate. This is a government that assassinated its own political compromise when it accepted that the United States and Israel were coming regardless. When Khamenei was killed on February 28th, every moderate voice inside Iran that argued for diplomacy over defiance lost the argument permanently. The hardliners are in charge now, and hardliners do not reopen straits in response to social media ultimatums. That is the psychological reality sitting across the table from Trump's deadline. Iran's military command has also been explicit about what happens if power plants get struck. Every American energy facility in the region becomes a target. Saudi refineries, UAE terminals, Bahraini infrastructure. The strikes would not be symbolic. They would be designed to expand the energy crisis from regional to truly global in a matter of hours. A 45-day ceasefire proposal is on the table. Multiple countries desperate for de-escalation are pushing it from every direction. The diplomats are working, the mediators are flying, the back channels are burning hot, and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern is still on the calendar. Here is the honest assessment of where this ends. There are two versions of the next 48 hours. In the first version, the 45-day ceasefire proposal gains enough traction through back channels that Trump extends the deadline again. Iran signals, indirectly, that the strait can reopen under a ceasefire framework. Both sides claim victory. The world exhales. Oil falls. Markets rally. Diplomacy lives. In the second version, the structural gap between open the strait before we talk and stop bombing before we talk does not close in time. Tuesday, 8 p.m. arrives without a deal. Trump, having extended this deadline twice already and called it weakness by Iran, pulls the trigger. U.S. strikes hit Iran's power grid. Iran retaliates across the Gulf. Saudi infrastructure takes a hit. The oil disruption doubles overnight. Everything that economists have modeled as the catastrophic tail risk becomes the baseline reality. The difference between those two versions is 36 hours, and the willingness of two governments to trust a mediator more than their own pride. The mainstream media is covering this as a diplomatic standoff. Two sides, lots of drama. Will Trump extend the deadline again? They are not explaining that the 45-day ceasefire proposal exists and what it contains. They are not telling you that the energy window closes in 2 to 3 weeks regardless of what happens Tuesday. They are not walking you through what a doubling of the supply disruption means for the price of oil, the cost of groceries, and the stability of the global economy. They are not connecting the killed IRGC intelligence chief to Iran's refusal to sit down directly. They are not saying out loud that a missing American pilot may be the single factor holding everything in place right now. The reassuring story is, diplomacy is alive, the deadline might shift, and a deal is possible. The terrifying story is, the structural conditions for catastrophe are all present simultaneously, the window is closing, and both sides have publicly committed to positions they cannot walk back without losing face. Both stories are true. Only one of them tells you what Tuesday night actually looks like if the phone calls stop and the bombs start. 32 Israeli civilians dead. Iran's intelligence chief eliminated. Kuwait's oil facilities on fire. 4 people dead in a Haifa apartment building that no longer has a roof. And a Tuesday deadline that is either the start of a deal or the start of something that no economist, no military planner, and no government in the world has a model for surviving cleanly. The world is not just watching, the world is waiting, and the clock is running out.